by Cedars-Sinai. Shifty work into the box. And across, it's in! Oh, it's Lahou! It's a dream return!
Hey everyone, welcome to Casual FC, an Angel City match preview and footy therapy pod featuring two podcast certified footy therapists. But today, this is your 200 level soccer position refresher class. Easily the longest name of a class I've ever taken. I'm your host, Angela Morales, with my Girl Scout cookie selling co-host, given that 'tis the season, Mario Salazar. And we have a very special guest, like big air horns, big confetti cannons, a t-shirt cannon, if you will. Bridie O'Toole from the YouTube channel Busy Watching Women's Sports, who I've also seen on TikTok. And yeah, like I'm so excited for this episode for a million reasons, but just excited to get to know you, excited to talk soccer positions and what means what to help our listeners kind of figure out who does what and why we say things the way we do. But as I kind of mentioned, this is the second episode of our updated little soccer explainer. It's for the newbies, the casuals, or for your friends that you just decide to bring to a game and they're like, what the heck am I going to? So welcome and let's have fun. So remember to share this with your friends, your coworkers, anybody who might need it. This applies to soccer in general, so not just Angel City. And it is useful around the world. So, Bridie, again, thank you so much for being here. Tell us about yourself. Give us all the dirt, all the deets.
Ooh, okay. Well, thank you for having me. Little old me. I think probably the most interesting thing, and I think most people usually are interested to know where I'm from. Half British, half Irish. But I grew up mostly in Singapore. Kind of a weird combination, but that's where my dad worked, and family grew up over there. I went back to the UK for college, and while I was there, I went to Texas for one vacation, and I saw the bluest sky I have ever seen in my life. I was like, "This is it. I'm moving."
Wow.
So, yeah, I've been in the US for 10 years now. I love it here.
Nice. Have you been in Texas the entire time, or have you been like moving around the country too?
It was really just Texas, but I moved last year to San Diego, so I am Southern California
West Coaster.
Now. Yeah, it's been very different, but I love it. It's just a change that I needed.
Can I ask what part of Texas you were in? I have family in like the DFW area in Austin, and Houston actually. So
okay, yeah, I was in Dallas. So
nice.
It's a small town. Where are they at?
They're outside of Dallas proper, more towards Fort Worth. In like Watauga and Bedford, that area, South Lake.
Okay. All right. Where the horses are.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, Texas is all horses. It's just everybody gets a horse. Yeah, everybody gets a horse when you move there. Like it's just
horse hat and boots.
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
your starter pack.
Yeah, what got you into soccer? Did you play? I mean, assuming given your background, it was kind of ingrained, just stereotypically. But aside from that.
Yeah, it was a classic story of, wanting father's approval, and father liked soccer, and off we go. So he really got me into it, but I completely fell in love. I just had the ball attached to my foot every minute of my life. I went semi-pro at 16 in Singapore. I played semi-pro in what was the second division in England.
Oh, wow.
And then I realized I like getting paid. and I decided I needed a real job. And I'm kicking myself now because some people actually put the work in to turn it into a real job. So I appreciate what they've done.
The unfortunate reality of women's sports, especially the people that were there early on. Do I feed myself or do I keep playing?
Yeah.
It's a crazy predicament to have, but I'm lots of great players out there that have gone and done the work so that we have this fantastic product to watch, and I'm just so happy to have found my love for the game again, and since I have, it's been nonstop. I just can't stop watching.
I love that. It's very, I come from not a soccer background but a sports background, and it's very difficult to get yourself back there to like find the love for it again after you've left, because even if you leave on good terms where it's like, I'm done, this is good, this is easy, like it's my time to walk away, coming back to it is a different type of relationship, and finding that goodness about it can be incredibly hard. So I'm so happy for you.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
I mean, that's impressive. I mean, the fact that you went to that level anywhere in the world is like a feat on its own, right? It means you were good enough to be part of that league, part of that experience, part of those players. You were up in that like echelon, which is always amazing. We've talked to people, and then just seemingly randomly, they're just like, "Oh yeah, I used to play here in whatever division." And we're just like, "What? Really? That's a huge thing you should have started with."
Yeah, there's so many good players out there with stories of, I walked away at this age and haven't touched a ball since. And I would encourage everybody to play rec soccer. Anybody of any ability, it is just going to make you happy. It is just a fun sport.
I tried when I moved out to the Valley. I tried looking, and then the only thing I could find was like an over 40 league, and at the time I wasn't. So I'm like, oh well, I can't play just yet. I'm too young to play into that, but I'm like too old to play with the youngins because everybody else was like youngins with good knees, and I wasn't gonna carry my 200-pound ass around the field. I tried it once, and I hurt things that I didn't know were there, and yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll get back to
over
it.
40 leagues and 30 leagues, they're made to protect you. So, if they're not doing that, they're not doing their job.
Yeah, that's fair.
I need to join one that like is very much on the rec side of the rec league. Yeah.
Yeah, for as much coordination as I have, like hand-eye coordination, hand-foot coordination I have, but like being able to dribble a ball, I don't understand. I dribble a ball with my hands. I play basketball, dribbling with my feet. I'm like, no thanks. I cannot figure it out. So I have the utmost respect for folks who can kick the ball and control it. I can kick it far, but that's like, I could honestly probably be a keeper at best, which that's fine for me.
It's a tough job. But I like your kick it but not control it. It's half the battle. We can all kick it, so or something.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true. Yeah. So rumor has it that you have a funny streak and you used to do stand-up, which coming from LA, like everybody I know to some degree has done stand-up, but outside of this microcosm of a city, it's not as common. So like, how'd you get there? What's the deal?
So, I mean, the real start of this story and kind of like my love for soccer and honestly everything is I got pretty sick in 2020, and it was just kind of this moment. I think, when you get better, a lot of people talk about this. What am I doing with my life? Like, why am I scared of stuff?
Yes. Yep.
So I had this huge list of things where I was like, I just want to try it and at least know if I like it. And so I just started signing up for the most random things. And some of them I would just do for a week. But comedy, I really, really enjoyed. It was just a lot of fun getting up on stage, telling jokes. And I think like when you get that genuine reaction from someone, you can see that, oh man, they are falling over laughing. It's just such a good feeling.
That's awesome. What's your favorite joke, or like what's a joke that's like the one that gets people every time?
One that I really like to work into my sets, kind of like around my background, is because I think, people can tell that, I've moved around a lot and probably didn't have a lot of structure growing up. Like my parents are kind of hippies and, just very different kind of childhood. But I really think I actually had a lot of structure growing up. I would sit down at a dining table with my parents, 5 o'clock every single day, no matter what, to drop acid.
I thought I knew where you were going. I definitely.
Yeah, see?
Yeah, so good.
Yeah.
Sorry,
right.
can we air that? It's not
Yes.
Yeah. This podcast has not shied away from language. I have to mark the thing on YouTube that says it's not for kids.
Yeah.
All the time. And I leave the explicit content rating on our feed no matter what. Even if we have a very clean, wholesome episode, like it's going to be marked explicit just because you know,
We're grown.
It is what it is.
Like,
It is not for kids.
No.
I check that every time. I'm like, I didn't know.
No, we're going to get mad about some stuff, so it's not for kids.
yeah, definitely.
But if your kid wants to listen, hey, if they're mature enough, yeah, sure, let's go.
You have a great upbringing.
Okay, so you have your YouTube page. I came across it, and mainly because I was trying to look for a breakdown of what I was seeing on screen or in person. And I think you started doing these breakdowns, which were amazing. I love even the like player position like table. A visual learner just makes it so much easier. I did though. I had to press the about and see more because it only gives you like the first like half sentence. But in your bio, you say on 2/1/24, Lindsay Horan personally insulted me, and the idea of this channel was born. So we need the backstory on that.
Okay, so it's a little snarky, and I might have taken, I might have blown the situation up a little bit, but gosh, this was maybe a year or two now when Lindsay Horan had the athletic interview, and I'm sure she didn't mean to say it in that manner, but she just seems to have a case of foot and mouth disease.
Yeah.
But so she essentially said that, American players don't really have a good understanding of the game in general, and, they're not educated soccer viewers. I took that personally. I feel like if it is true, let's do something about it, and it might not be true. And so probably reality is like somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. I mean, thus our podcast was born of like the casual fans, like both Angela and I, day one supporters at Angel City. We have our season tickets. I'm coming from being a fan of soccer and the MLS, and so watching the men's side, super excited about the women's team that was being developed here. Honestly, before that was not a huge. I didn't watch the NWSL a ton or much at all, right? And I've said that before, but with it being in our own backyard, it's a lot easier to root and follow and be a part of something. And so I got involved really early on. Angela, on the other hand, could care less about the men. Screw them.
Like, honestly, I don't give a shit about men's soccer. I don't. Like, to be very frank.
They play with the little ball over there.
I'm just like, that's good for you. Congratulations. Like, neat. And honestly, with the exception of basketball sometimes and baseball, I really don't watch men's sports anymore because I'm like, oh, cool. We've evolved enough now where you let us have leagues. And that's what I wanted. So that's what you get. Like, that's what I watch.
Yeah.
Well, fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, and it totally brings me up to date with what's going on. Angela and her fiance Eva are like treasure troves of knowledge. So a lot of times I'm like doing my research and writing these scripts, and she'll come in out of left field with something. I'm just like, God damn it, I didn't even know that was a thing.
And this tweet from September 22nd, 2002, like, like that kind of stuff of just random lore. So I think
I will say that she throws those things out, and then I'm the one that needs to go figure out where that tweet was.
I'm like, I don't know when this was. It was sometime a long time ago. But I think finding that middle ground, like you said, of it's somewhere in the middle, because we have knowledge of things, but we don't have like the deep-seated knowledge, or maybe the desire to get that knowledge is easily forgotten, or not necessarily forgotten, but you get distracted while you're Googling something, so it's like you start down one rabbit hole, you end up down another. But finding the empty pockets to fill, it sounds like what you're doing is similar to what we're doing, where it's like, I have all this knowledge of the lore and the history and why things are important. And Mario's like, yeah, but I have the questions. So finding that middle ground to bring people in is the goal, I think, for all of us in this sense.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, that is it 100%. And I like the questions is a big part of it as well. I think you have to sort of like allow yourself to have those questions, and that's where you figure out, okay, what is that empty space? What is missing, and what can we fill in?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty much the conversation he and I had when we were developing the idea. It's like, what are we going to talk about? Like, I don't want to talk by myself. I don't want to do this alone. So then I wrangled him into doing this. And it's been really fun because I've been forced to learn more, to be able to explain it differently and bring it, I can basically make anything a sports analogy. So that helps. I can relate one sport to another, positions to other positions. So it's really fun to be able to kind of bridge that gap as well for those who are coming over from the W or from baseball or what have you, to really enjoy soccer and enjoy the sport. So it's a lot of fun.
I love it. There's nothing better in a good sports analogy.
Mm-hmm.
So something we like asking people that come on is, what is your favorite soccer memory, right? It can be from either side. And then you have the extra of, you have some crazy personal experience. So it could be like a personal or one from being a spectator, and anything under the sun. But what's your favorite memory when it comes to the sport?
I think on the pitch, favorite memory is just like whenever you kind of pre-plan something and you can get away with it. I can think of specific games where I pulled off specific moves and I didn't need to, I just wanted to. So those are in my head of, oh yeah, I really like that time I was able to kind of pull off like a trend spin or something like that. You kind of set yourself a goal before a match and you can accomplish it. So as a player, those are the things I always really enjoyed. But as a fan, I think by far my favorite memory has to be Gold Cup final at Snapdragon Stadium. It was just really awesome after having moved to Southern California to feel like I was really part of this like environment and atmosphere. The game was incredible. And weirdly enough, I got tickets really, really last minute, and it was a section that they just opened up. And I sat down on my seats, and the first thing I did, said to my wife, is I just looked at the roster. This is no good, here are my notes. And she looks at me and she goes, and every single player's family is in this row next to us, behind us. Like the entire section was family. We were the only two people in the section that weren't. So we were very quiet the whole game. Like it was a great game, but it was just
super.
Fun to
Everybody's
see.
Doing wonderful. 10 out of 10. Like
Yeah, exactly.
That's so cool. That's very, very cool. What position did you play? Also, I forgot to ask earlier.
I played as a right winger, so I was very, very, very tiny, very quick, and I am not anymore. And it's been real fun trying to figure out where to put me on the pitch now. So open to ideas.
That's awesome. Now we can get into what we're calling our Soccer 201 course, right? First one, 101, was all the basics that you needed to know, where we played, basics of the formation and what the positions are, basics of what are things happening on the field, what does that little card mean, all of those fun things. If you didn't know, and like we said, this is the perfect little thing to give your friends to be like, here, watch this. It's not that long. You'll be ready somewhat for the game, and then we can teach you more as we're there. This is 201. This is, I know I'm gonna learn some stuff. So we're talking strategy, tactics, positions, stuff that I've literally only heard by being around the sport, like the number 9 and the number 10, and I'm like, I pretend I know what those are, but I don't. So we're all gonna learn. We're all gonna learn. So please take it away. It's all you.
Okay. So I know this is an Angel City deal, but I had to put the ghost of Naomi Gurma here to watch over us because I'm very sad. So excuse me for that.
I think the league as a whole is sad. Like fans across the board are sad because Naomi Gurma is generational at this point.
Yeah, there was a big. I even felt it as like the casual of all of this. I was just like, oh, this is huge. This is like a big deal. That she's leaving. Also, I mean, get that bag, but still.
My thing is, I feel like she's left early enough in her career that she has to come back. So I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Okay, so real quick before we get started with all of this, though, because we've talked about this, and we're also a little bit more biased on the whole NWSL being the American League and thinking that we have the better product here versus Europe. Although, I mean, they're getting a lot better, because they can pay the best players to come around. Where do you think we're at with that? Like,
it's so hard to say because they're just offering two different things. I think as a player, you're just choosing between two really different experiences. I think people talk about the consistency in the NWSL and how, every match is competitive. And that is a really big deal. I think one of the things people probably don't realize for, Naomi Girma going to Chelsea, part of her game management now is understanding like self-management in her games around risk-taking and judgment when she's playing teams that are maybe not at the level that she would typically play. How do you operate consistently in that match and not have it impact your decision-making when you go into Champions League matches? Like it's not that easy to moderate your play. So I think there's a different challenge in that as well. So just different things. I don't know. I feel like my choice, though, would be NWSL right now. It's just, there's so much momentum in the league.
Yeah. That's kind of where we landed.
Yeah.
Because it is like load management when you're playing a team that isn't, I feel like most, regardless of roster situations, like most teams in the NWSL are pretty, that's why everything's so tight. The parity is so good. You have superstars in every team. You have, I don't even want to say regular players, but they're all professionals. Like they're all super good, but it's like you have the players that kind of float under the radar, either because of their position or because they aren't flashy in the way they play, things like that. But in other leagues, essentially just not the NWSL, you have the Chelseas, the Arsenals, the Barcelonas, the teams that have the money, like just Monopoly, Mr. Moneybags running around. And then you have the teams, the haves and the have-nots, essentially. And I think, thankfully, I think the NWSL is pushing the rest of international soccer to kind of like get it together, because I don't think it's fair to the players to, you're getting pulled to other countries because you can't play at home. I mean, that's essentially why the NWSL started up, was because people just want to play at home. Traveling is amazing and so cool, but there's such a big sacrifice that comes with that.
Massive.
Yeah.
I like that thought of the other leagues being pushed along by the NWSL. I hadn't really thought about that much, but it's a very, very valid point. It's, the parity that they offer becomes competitive for sure.
Yeah. It's just going to be interesting how we deal with salary cap and how that influences. That's the trade-off, is salary caps or parity.
Great decision, is it?
No, not at all.
All right.
Let's get
to
down
class.
to business.
Okay, welcome. I have our white dots, which is the Angel City roster being built and kind of developed right now in preseason. So we're set up in a 4-3-3, and I feel like that's what I saw Angel City in most of the year.
Yep.
You guys agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay, good deal.
Very rarely did we take chances.
Yeah. Although,
how did it work out? 22 chances.
yeah,
Were there chances taken? We don't know.
Well, okay. I did do that analysis. So we did the 4-3-3 for the majority of the season last year. With he did that. A problem with that, though, is that it was never the same lineup. The entire season, I believe we only had 6 games that had the same lineup continue, and in those 6 games, each of them were pairs. So there was 3 different lineups within those 6 games, and then from there on, every single game the rest of the season was a different lineup every single game. The one game that we did change the formation, and then we all went like, "This is the new formation. Let's do this. Let's go." We did. Was it like
It was a 5-1 game.
No, but what was the formation? It was like 5.
Oh, it was
5 in the back. No. It was
5 in the front.
Oh, yeah, it was 5 in the front.
It was the last game, last game of the 2022 season, which essentially got us like over the hump to the playoffs. We made up goal differential. We won 5-1 against Portland. So we made up the goal differential we needed. We won the game. They lost. It was just like every single thing that needed to happen happened, but we never saw it again.
Oh, well, but
that was the game that Sid had her bicycle kick and went down in history as the greatest goal ever
when
scored.
we did actually do it again, though, it just completely fell apart.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we just like to think that we've never done it again. Yes, 4-3-3 has been
it's just easier that way.
4-3-3 has been our main too.
Well, I was going to harp on y'all about the lack of consistency in our roster, but I guess I don't need.
We're very aware.
Some of that was due to injury and international stints, but the majority of that was due to we don't know what. Just because.
For fun. It's fun to change things.
Actually, yeah, sure.
And now you've got Becky down there, down in San Diego. So, I mean,
Yeah.
there you go. Maybe you guys will have a nice chaotic season.
I was about to say, we've had one. I'm prepared for another at this point. I'm all here for the chaos.
It is a very chaotic league, that's for sure.
All right, so we've got player numbers and positions. Sometimes they make sense, sometimes they don't. And I will let you do what you want to do on how you want to teach this. But I think the main ones, how about the number 9? What does the number 9 do?
All right, so our number 9 is our striker. And in this 4-3-3, they're a really important person because they are just that one player out there on their own. I think for Angel City, this has mostly been Sydney Leroux. And I really, really like the style of striker that she is because I think she offers so much kind of range. To me, a good striker is somebody strong, physical. All these other people could do all the difficult work of, moving the ball up the pitch. And then this person is just there to bang it in the net, bang it home, finish. And, there's a lot of goals where you watch her and she's real sneaky and patient out here and times her moves really well so that all of a sudden when the ball is here, she's just there and she makes it look super simple. Or she's doing a bicycle kick. And I don't really understand her goals are bicycle kicks or tap-ins, but that's a good player to me.
I mean, there's been times where she's just like dove out of nowhere. Like you're looking at the play, and then all of a sudden there's like a person flying across the goal, and it's Sid.
Yeah. Yeah, and she's been like that her whole career. Like even in college, like she's just gritty, she's creative, and like you said, she's just a strong presence in the box. Like she's going for it every time. If the ball is within 5 feet of her, she'll find it, and it's so cool.
She is a joy to watch. So, I mean, you are Angel City solid up here. I think, Messiah Bright offered a lot of similar things, and it's probably why she's moved on. It's, how could you pick Messiah Bright over Sydney Leroux when you have the added benefit of the bicycle kicks, right? So,
so what are the other 2 numbers that would be considered the forward positions?
So the other 2 forwards are your left wing and your right wing. Your right wing is normally going to be the number 7, usually a very competitive jersey number. And your left wing is going to be your number 11. We've had a couple different players playing in both of these positions, but I think towards the end of the season, what I was seeing on film was Alyssa Thompson here on the left and Claire Emsley on the right. And that was working out pretty good most of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, we were really excited at the beginning of last season because Emsley was in the Golden Boot race. Like he was in the top 5 for a good portion. I would say a good portion of the beginning of the season.
Honestly, the first half before,
and then
before the break
it all went downhill. So like everything went downhill. But yeah, we were really excited.
It also went downhill because Temwa Chawinga decided to score against every single team. Like,
yeah.
Just kind of blew everybody out of the water at that sense. With the wingers, is there a reason why you play one side or the other, or is it like just whatever floats your boat? What are the strengths of those sides?
I think typically footedness is what kind of decides where you play. So if you're right-footed and you're on the right wing here, it becomes much easier for you to cross the ball in, but you haven't really got, if you're right-footed, much of a lane to shoot. What's very popular in a lot of football right now is what's called the inverted winger. And so that's a strategy where you bring a player more inside. And what that does is it gives them more room to the net to shoot. But typically when you have this inverted winger, you'll switch them so that it should be a left-footed player. And because of that, you can see how there's a lot more shot on goal, a lot better angle. So one thing that I think worked out really, really well is kind of having almost one inverted winger and one more traditional winger. Emsley is doing a lot of the work to sort of run the ball up the line. cross the ball in, float these really pretty balls. And then Alyssa Thompson is getting inside more. And I think, at Angel City, I've seen her play on the left, I've seen her play on the right, but every single goal she had this last season came from playing on the left wing. And she's very good on both feet, but I think she is right-footed, and so that's really helped her just open up the goal and score.
Nice.
Yeah, that was the second half of the season for Alyssa was fantastic. It was really nice to see her get her audacity back, and that's, I feel like, what a lot of people didn't know was missing. And then once, I don't remember who said it, but somebody was like, yeah, she found the audacity, and I was like, that's exactly, she lost that edge that she came into the league with. So it was really nice to see her get it back. And it's basically what the team ended up saying too. Like, she said it, players said it. They're like, no, she just remembered. Yeah. That's all. It was like, oh, dang.
Yeah, she's got a bit more fight in her, and got that She Believes call up, right? Very well deserved, because she's been playing great with the national team. So really, I love watching her. I really enjoy watching her. I'm really looking forward to next season.
So with those three players, we also have another forward in June Endo, and that's my daughter's favorite player. Where would she technically fit in something like this?
I am a humongous June Endo fan. I kind of saw the writing on the wall for last season with her going down and McCaskill leaving, because they both play very long balls, a lot of like really good distribution from both of them, and I think that was one of the pieces that was maybe missing a bit. I am really curious to see how that plays out, because I think June Endo is so good in this area of the pitch, and obviously Alyssa Thompson is as well. So I don't know. That's one where it's like, it's way above my pay grade. I don't know how you solve that problem, but they both have to be on the pitch somehow.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, how do we make it so that all of the pieces we need don't necessarily have to sub out for each other? They can just all play at the same time.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe we're gonna have a June Endo inverted winger. Maybe she's gonna become a goal scorer. Maybe that'll be the move. Who knows?
Spicy.
I mean, we're all for some June Endo goals, especially since she was like. We'll talk about it later when we get to the VAR, but like we have history with VAR and June Endo. So
June was.
All right, so now we've talked about those. The other big number that you always hear is the number 10. The number 10 apparently is not any one of the first three at the front. So
this person right here is going to be your number 10. I have no idea why they're called the number 10, but they do such an important job, because they are really like the connection point between the back here and the front here. So they're going to do a lot of the job of getting the ball turned around, kind of making sure they're facing towards goal and getting the ball moving in that direction. Requires a lot of creativity, quick thinking. You got to be really, really confident in your decisions. This is also an area of the pitch I personally hated playing in, because very, very comfortable over here with this sideline to protect you. You have no idea what's going on 50% of your coverage area here. Is very stressful. So super important job. And I think I saw Kennedy Fuller playing this role most throughout the season, which, for a young kid to do and actually do a pretty serviceable job at, I was very impressed with what I saw from her.
I'm very excited to see her as she grows into league, as she matures as a player. She was very, very fun to watch this first season.
Yeah, it's beautiful the way she plays, very like quick and connected.
Yeah. And, it looks like the Fuller family is another one of the kind of like the Thompson family, where they just build them all the same way. So I believe her sister is also like right behind her, or right behind her. And like,
she's got a younger sister.
But like her younger sister also is hitting a bunch of accolades and a bunch of like forming really well. So I, wouldn't be surprised if her younger sister eventually makes it to the NWSL also.
Yeah, I read this book. Gosh, I'm going to have to dig it up to give you guys the actual name, but it was about kind of like for parents and kids and kind of how to help their kids that want to be athletes. But one of the biggest studies that book cited was a study where the younger sibling in siblings that play sports almost always go on to be more successful, because they're just pushed in the way that they play recreationally with an older sibling. And so I always get excited when somebody says, oh, so-and-so has a younger sibling that plays. I'm like frothing in the mouth, like, oh my God, how could somebody be better?
Yep. Yeah, that's always the fun thing. And that's what it was when we found out about Giselle having been on the practice squad and already being in the team culture before she even got signed. So it was like, oh, perfect. Yeah. We've got one in the wings.
Love it.
All right. And then we've got 2 more down there, but I would say in your 4-3-3 formation, the next 2 are tied with that number 10, right? So
so I've set these up as both 6s, defensive midfielders. We also have this number 8 position, which you would call like a central midfielder, but I mean, you would never really stack 3 people like that. You might have a number 8 if you're going to have them more flat like that. I think I saw y'all play with mostly 2 defensive midfielders, and especially once you had, someone like Zellum come in. That's a role that she's really quite specialized in. I think that made up for Henri leaving, because that was quite a big departure. It's a bitter point.
It was one of those where, in the same way where I feel like we wasted a season for Rocky, we did the same thing for Mandy. She made the decision to come back to the NWSL. And for what?
Yeah. And then to be like traded in like one of the last, like, you don't get to say whatever you want to say type of trades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were a lot of questions that happened at the trade deadline last year. To say
a lot of head scratching, a lot of, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I often wonder that. I'm like, what is the conversation happening in the building? Because sometimes I'm like, things have to be so different from what you're seeing on film to get the result that we're at. But I mean, you never know.
Yeah, there's always like that missing piece of information. It's like they say there's 2 sides to every story, and then the third, like the real thing that happened. But like I feel like in sports, there's the real thing, the 2 sides, and then like the front office. Where it's like a completely different, nobody is related to the other parts of this.
A great analogy for a front office.
Then now we've got the back line. Well, okay, before we move on to the back line, the 6 and 8 position, you say you have them as like 6s. Really, what is the point of having the 2 6s? Or are they like, are they limited within their field reach? Because like right now, I think you have them displayed really cool where they're like flowing all the way up the field, right? And so you really see that the number 9, the one that's all the way at the striker at the very top, they're going to be right next to that goal. Then we have the 6s and the number 10 just kind of hovering around the center circle. Is there a reason we want to keep those back there? They tend to move up past the center circle. What are we doing with those?
I think all teams are pretty different in how they approach this. And the one thing I would always say about the formations is, whatever the lineup is and the formation is that you see, at the start of a game on the screen, that's really just something that's been drawn up by the network. Mm-hmm. What the coach is actually doing is usually often quite different. And usually this formation is really a base for an offensive look and a defensive look. So what you'll tend to see when you're in a double pivot is these players will usually offset from each other a bit. They're not usually side by side during play. And the reason for that is it allows players to kind of have one maybe a little bit more offensive focused, one a bit more defensive focused, or you can have it so that one is in charge of this side of the pitch and one is in charge of that side of the pitch. When you go with 2 attacking and 1 defensive, it just becomes a lot of work for this one person. And it's just a different, it's not as structured of a game plan. I mean, you can almost see where the holes are in this immediately. And this is not a fun area to defend at all.
Right in front of the goal, no.
No.
All right, well, let's talk about defense then. The great quote of like, goals are fun, but defenders win games. Let's talk about that defense. Are we going to start in the middle or on the outside?
We'll start in the middle. And the one thing I will say about these 4 is when you pick a formation that has a back 4, you're usually going to stick with that through the whole season. So when we talked a little bit earlier about, did they change the formation? And you said, oh, I think they went to back 5. That shocked me because I was like, why would you do that? That's so stressful. But changes up here are pretty easy to handle. You just do not want changes back here. It's a lot of coordination. And so we have the 2 center backs here. And usually one of these center backs is going to be in charge of calling the defense. So they basically coordinate with the goalie, and they will probably coordinate with one of the defensive midfielders to basically set the depth of the entire line. So when they step, everybody is supposed to step with them. Same thing when they go back. Or, they may be giving instructions around what the pivot players are supposed to be doing and where they're moving to help with, moving up the pitch. So these players, or at least one of them, is always going to be incredibly, incredibly important, and you just don't want to sub them out. So I think one of your superstars last year was definitely Gordon, who did most of her work in that area, and just, you absolutely need her to organize.
The captain, the queen, the embodiment of everything cool is Sarah Gordon.
But
I think a lot of us would kill to be Sarah Gordon. She's just like naturally effortless when she plays. So.
Sarah Gordon.
It's, do I want to know her? Do I want to be her? What is it? It's
Sarah
everything.
Gordon was the
She
person
is-
you guys
she
ran
is
into,
it.
or at least Eva ran into, like at a coffee shop, right?
Yeah, there was a local coffee place that has since closed, and it's depressing that it's closed because it's such a wonderful community space. But she was there. She's a musician, so she was there meeting someone to figure out something for a gig. And she has loved Sarah Gordon like her whole career. When she was in Chicago, like everything, just loved Sarah Gordon. Both of us love defense. And it was right after she had signed with Angel City. She was telling me, you don't understand. Sarah Gordon is it. I'm going to get a jersey. My first jersey is going to be a Sarah Gordon jersey. We ordered the jersey, and the next day she got hurt, and we were like, cursed. Oh no. But that day, she's texting me like, do I go? I was like, you go say hi to her right now. Nobody in the city knows who she is yet. Please just make her day. So she texted me. She's like, can I call you? And I'm at work. So I go outside, and I talked to her, and she was so excited and was not ready for someone to recognize her. She was just like, are you Sarah Gordon? And she was like, yeah. I'm so happy you're with Angel City. I'm so happy you're going to be with a team that like respects you and has what you need and is like there for you. And Kaden gives her this whole thing, and she's Sarah, teary-eyed, was like, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, what a welcome to the city. And I was like, yeah, just cheering her on, because it's one of those things where, as athletes growing up in this world, there wasn't a place for us most times. And then as you moved up those ranks, a lot more sacrifice came with that. And there wasn't a lot of payoff in that same way that there is for a lot of people now. So it's like a lot of thankless work was done. And I think for someone like some random person at a coffee shop in North Hollywood to be like, are you
it?
Sarah Gordon,
Are you
professional
her?
soccer player who should have been called up to the national team 90 million times, but whatever, we're not going to talk about it. Who has the respect of the whole city of LA? Like it's one of those, like, are you her? And she was like, yeah, you gave her the moment that she's deserved for God knows how long. So hooray. Yeah, we're a big Sarah Gordon household over here.
That was a great story. I love that. It's just so nice. I don't know. It's just funny how stuff works out. I'm just a big believer in, people bump into people for reasons and make connections, and it's just all one big connected web. So that's cool.
Oh, absolutely. Community, always.
All right. And then, I do see that in your note, you mentioned Alana Kennedy. So Kennedy.
Yeah.
Kennedy's going to be brand new to me. So where does she fit in here? Is this going to be like a battle for the center back position, or is this something where they can like coexist?
I think they're going to coexist, because I think Sarah Gordon was pretty consistent in starting at center back, but your other center back positions seem to go through a lot of rotation, which I know you don't want. So I think she's gonna get in there and lock up that spot. I think what is interesting is she, to me, is such a long time, well respected player that she's a real veteran, and a lot of what she does for her teams is that organizing and communication. And so are they going to be stepping on each other's toes there a little bit? Maybe it might be a different role for her, just kind of Gordon's in charge now and you listen to her lead. But be curious to see how that plays out. But I would put money on, 90% of the matches are going to be those two there, I think.
Nice. All right.
I'm curious to see how it plays out with Alana Kennedy, because she can play defensive mid. She can kind of get a little flexible that way, but I'm curious if she's going to take the spot from Megan Reed, or they're going to flip-flop, or they move her into the midfield. I don't know. I have a lot of questions in general for Angel City this season.
I actually think that's I hadn't considered that at all, having her as a defensive mid, more so because I think the need at center back is greater.
Same.
But something I saw last year from Gotham, and I think they only did it for a few games, but they had Maitane, who was one of their center backs. They had her move up to defensive midfielder, and she is also very tall. And I hadn't really seen, like in the women's game, that version of that very tall defensive midfielder, but I do think it kind of adds like a little blockage in that area. And I think the size alone can be kind of an attribute of that position. I think this is just kind of like maybe like a new sort of like tactical wrinkle on the women's side that we might start to see more of. So that'd be cool.
Yeah, I think we started to see it with Taylor Korniak, or now Taylor Flint, but it was one of those like a flash in the pan where you saw it and then nobody knew what to do with it, so we stopped doing it at the national level and in the NWSL. Like, it was one of those, oh, cool. Oh, no. What do we do? As opposing teams, and even the teams she's played on, don't always know how to manage that very well. I think they did a great job with it when she was in Orlando, but San Diego, it was just kind of like questionable. But I know she was also injured a lot during that time. So we'll see. I'm curious to see where Alana Kennedy lands. I'm just very excited for it because she is.
Yeah, it's a great signing.
She is
really
also
good signing.
Fantastic. Yeah.
All right, and now we get to the outside defenders, which it will be the one position where I'm like, okay, I'm a little bit more familiar, just because we're big MA fans here, and having her be this defender that can just run up the pitch most of the time has been super exciting for us. Is that a typical thing? I have no clue, but she can do it. But what are we doing with those outside defenders?
So typically, I think a lot of teams will choose a side which they want to, have more freedom to run up the pitch. And so I think for y'all, that was MA over here on the left. And it makes a lot of sense because this is where you've got Alyssa Thompson. So now you've got a lot of speed from MA, from Melissa, and it just gives you more options. So I think that has worked out really well. I think there's been a little bit of inconsistency at the right back position. And so I mean, maybe this is more of a question for y'all, is can Giselle play there? Because I feel like I've seen her do it for the under-20 team, and I don't really know why it hasn't happened for Angel City.
Yeah, so she's a fullback. Like, that's her regular position. When she came in, I think it was the game that Maddie Curry busted her head open. She came in later in the game and just stepped in for Maddie in that sense, and it was like a revelation. Not to say that, I mean, Maddie Curry stepping into that was a revelation, but then, RIP to the rain. Like, it just, that trade made me so sad. But I hope she has a great career and that she eventually comes back. But
that might be wishful thinking.
It definitely is. But, to have a player so robust fill those shoes very quickly. I think both Alyssa and Giselle are wise, and Kennedy Fuller actually are kind of wise beyond their years on the pitch. They've got a very high soccer IQ. So I think MA and Giselle on the outside is going to be a lot of fun because they're both very fast. The sister connection, and then MA to literally anybody is always a gem. I'm hoping we get.
There was a couple MA to Sid
go ahead.
Connections that were.
MA to Sid is fun. I can't wait to see MA to Chris and Press. Like, those connections are going to make BMO just explode. But I hope we get to see Allie Riley back there at some point this season or whenever. Cap she's just great, and she deserves to play at least a little bit more. But yeah, I'm curious to see how our new signings come in and fill those roles as well, and backups and injuries and how the season plays out. I'm just like itching. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I hear you. It's every time I see like a new player pop up, I'm like, that's great, but where is the film? Gonna need to look at.
Absolutely.
right now, March 16th can't come soon enough. Like, we're just, it's like, no, the MLS starts in February. Why don't you just start in February now? let's keep it going.
I may or may not have requested off St. Patrick's Day from work, and I know like half my coworkers are going to be like, "Oh, Angela, you're going out?" No, I'm going to a soccer game the day before. I'm going to be there all day, and I'm going to be really tired. I may go to work. I may end up being one of those. Oh, I'm going to show up anyway, but I don't want to go. Yeah, just in case. Opening day is a big deal.
You have a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, how do you think? And this is also because I'm not so well versed on her game, but Miyaba Moriya, where do you see her fitting into this?
I did some light Googling because I wasn't familiar with the name, but it looks like she plays as an outside back. And then the other signing was Savvy King, who also mostly plays as an outside back. So I kind of feel like you've maybe gone from feeling like, oh gosh, we don't have enough options at outside back to it's
Too
a
many.
little bit overwhelming. Oh, many. But to me, that's a sign that like tactically, something with the outside backs is important. So if this position has been coming up, this has clearly been working for them, and this is something they want to continue doing, and they want to make sure that they have the depth to do that if MA is not able to. Or maybe they're really looking to be able to do the same thing super consistently, super evenly on both sides of the pitch. All I know is they are very focused on fixing the back line, and if I was front office, that's where I would have spent my time as well. So I think this is hopefully going to be a very positive result for y'all.
Yeah. we needed the help in the back line. Like we had not to say that we don't have we have amazing players. It's just also it wasn't deep enough to handle the injuries that happened. And so we're gonna the only player to talk about now is the keeper, but Angeline Anderson, we were psyched for. We were excited, but because of those injuries in the back line, it was Swiss cheese back there. And we got the first 3 games were bombs, and Angelina lost her spot, and she lost her spot for the rest of the season. And it was just like, but that wasn't her fault. Like,
and it didn't help that we played Kansas City, Orlando, and Gotham in the first 3-4 games. Right, you just get hammered on. It was like, Bay FC.
It was Bay
right,
FC, Kansas, and
Orlando.
Yeah, and we just
and it was before the fall off of Bay FC, so it was just like, oh great, cool. Welcome to the league.
I think those games are super frustrating because, we talk about every game mattering, and it's so hard, I think, to conceptualize that with a team like Orlando that early in the season. I'm sure nobody gave them the respect they deserved that early on. And then, poor Angelina Anderson, you look back, with rose-colored glasses, and you're like, oh, actually, that result was pretty close. We weren't all that far off.
Yeah, like I didn't actually do so bad given that they won the table. They ran the table. They won the championship. Like, okay, cool. Yeah. That loss gets a little less painful at that point.
Yeah. Well,
I also feel like those first 2 games should just be a write-off, right? Like, you haven't figured out anything at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll kind of go off with what hooligans end up saying. Usually at the beginning of every season, whenever we start MLS and we're talking about like the first, they're like, look, we're in America and we have a playoff system, which means the first like 5 games really don't matter. The first 5 games are really like an extension of preseason because you can make those first couple of games up, right? But if you don't find your rhythm, if you don't gel the way you're supposed to, which we did not, then you can't make up those 5. Those 5 become crucial. But for most teams, you get a couple ties in the beginning, maybe 1 or 2 losses. Like you can make that up, especially with, it's more of a half joke in the MLS since like you only have to be in the top 70% in order to make it into the playoffs. It's so stupid.
Yeah,
so
that's true. 'Cause you have a million teams.
It's the dumbest thing. It's the stupidest thing ever. But okay, I digress. Goalie's number one. So I mean, if you want to, if we're keeping up with all the numbers, the goalie is going to be number one. And we have two because Dee Dee has moved down south to San Diego with you guys. So we have Angelina Anderson in our back line, which we're excited for.
Do you really only have two goalkeepers on the roster right now?
Yes.
Right now, we have an NRI at preseason, but we haven't signed a third keeper. It's Angelina and Hannah Stamba from Japan.
Mm-hmm. And you feel pretty good it's going to be Angelina?
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't sound as confident.
I will be totally honest, and I haven't seen the games that she played in, so I feel like I've heard the story, and it sounds like she should be playing, so I hope she's walking into a good situation.
We were excited for her because she had such a great showing the previous season.
Yeah.
Towards the end, she had a great showing. We were also kind of expecting Dee Dee to take like a back seat this last season because there was a lot of injuries that she was getting. It was more about will her body last the entire season, and like should she be doing the smart thing of like taking a back seat, like, you know, don't kill yourself out there and like, you know, pass along the knowledge and whatnot. Dee Dee is an amazing keeper, so we had these high hopes, and then Angelina did so well, and then preseason was looking promising, and then those first 3 games just killed the momentum, and then like he didn't get to do much after that. And but during it was the season before, right? The Challenge Cup. So like she did amazing games. Every single one of those. So like
and coming out of college, she was one of the top ranked keepers coming out of Cal. She won, I think it was like Pac-12 Player of the Year. It was one of those where just accolades everywhere out of college. She holds records at Cal now. So I have a feeling it was just really, the schedule was not helpful to her cause last season. And I have a feeling she's just going to come out there, and in the same way that Kaylin Sheridan, the goal gets smaller when she's in it, or like Alyssa Nair, I have a feeling that's going to be Angie. And from one big Ange to another, I'm so here for it. I'm so excited. She's an inch or two taller than me. Our wingspans are probably close to the same because mine's extra long, and I'm like, let's go. Yeah. I'm thinking of maybe getting a keeper kit, and which, who knows? We'll see. We'll see what these kits look like.
Yeah, I don't see how you could not now after that glowing review. It's done deal.
Yeah, and that's no shade on Hannah. She's just a little bit younger. You know, it's just she has the international experience. I don't know if either of you saw June Endo posted on her Instagram today, I think it was yesterday, that Hannah and Miyabi played in junior high, or like their version of junior high, high school, and now professionally together and internationally. Like they've been at every level together on the same team. So that's awesome. Oh, this connection, like once June is back, this is going to be so cool. There's so much overlap between so many of our players that it's going to be special once it's all put together.
That was so cool. Yeah, I really like that as well. You know, being an expat myself, I think it helps a lot, right? And those communities are already there. So gosh, how much easier is it to sign a player when you're just asking them to come play with their childhood friend?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How
I mean,
awesome.
That's essentially how Marta built the Orlando Brazil connection.
Brasilambia over there.
Brasilambia, yeah. Oh, Marta calls you, says, hey, come play in the NWS. Who's going to say no? Nobody. Yeah, it's just really cool to see international players come and essentially just bring their friends. Where it's, come, this is great. We're having a good time.
Yeah. And like, what a great sign for your team and your city as well, that like somebody saying, my life is great and I think you would enjoy this too. I just love that. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's really cool when that happens.
All right. Well, thank you for the breakdown. I honestly, I just love the board. I want to buy my own board now. I want.
I have no real use for it, and I want it. You keep yours, we'll get ours.
Okay, all right.
And then we'll have we'll like FaceTime and have a little soccer board party.
I feel like it. It came from Etsy. They are available for purchase.
Nice.
Ooh, that's dangerous.
Yeah. All right. And moving on, we have one last thing that we were going to talk about today. This kind of advanced class of soccer knowledge. And it is everybody's kind of hated thing. VAR.
Yeah. At least Angel City's biggest hated thing. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Cool.
All right. We're going to be talking about everybody's favorite and most hated thing ever, and it's called VAR, which stands for the Video Assistant Referee, which, why do we have it? Nobody freaking knows. It doesn't. Nobody knows how to implement it the right way. They should not.
It's not a very consistent application, I think, is everybody's biggest
It's
gripe.
not.
VAR, VAR in theory, fantastic. It's just essentially like replay cams and being able to make sure you're making the right call. VAR in practice is very impractical.
Yeah.
It takes a long time.
Especially in a game when you decidedly do not stop the clock to keep the game moving.
Yeah.
And use VAR for like 5 minutes. Like, no. So I think we'll talk about it. The main thing about VAR is the idea of a clear and obvious error. Like, that's what it needs. That's the threshold in order to like initiate a referee to review something. That is the most inconsistent thing about it, because clear and obvious means something so different to everybody, every single ref that's there, that it causes just chaos. The June Endo goal that I was referring to earlier, and she was robbed, was a beautiful banger from basically half the field.
Yeah.
And it was the first instance of VAR in the NWSL being used, and they took away the goal, which I still to this day don't understand.
Yep.
Okay.
It was too beautiful to take away. I did not know that was the first VAR outcome, though. That is so unfortunate that it was like a majestic, beautiful. Sometimes I feel like if the goal's that good, can we just if it's a fraction of an inch, like just leave it for the beauty, for the art.
I think they need to add in their criteria of like viewable things, like just vibes. Like if it was just a beautiful goal and it hit the vibe, like you just leave it alone.
Like it's a banger. You just gotta let it go.
Yeah. So video assistant referee, or VAR, basically the fifth official on the field, right? We have the center ref. We have the two lines, which are playing on the lines and making sure that the ball is in or out, and sides and whatnot. And then we have the fourth official on the side, keeping track of time, and the one that says how much stoppage time there is after the match, or after the half. And then we have the fifth official, which would be this VAR. And this VAR is actually a group of 4 referees. There's like video referee, there's the assistant video referee, there's the assistant video person. There's too many people. That's why it doesn't work. They're looking for clear and obvious errors, which again, we've just said is a very, very vague topic, or vague way of talking about what you need to actually be looking for. So it tends to lead to a lot of problems. But they do try to write what the criteria is of what can be reviewed. Things that can be reviewed, anytime there is a goal, that's where the VAR just automatically starts checking. They check every single goal. If anything was offside, if there was a penalty, anything that would have prevented that goal to be taken back. If there is a foul within the penalty area that would cause a penalty, or when there is a call for a penalty, they're reviewing, is this a valid one? Do we take it back? When a direct red card, so in our previous 101 class, we talked about the difference between the 2 yellow red card or the direct red card. If you get a direct red card, VAR is reviewing the incident that led to that direct red card. The big difference here is that the 2 yellow red card is not reviewable. So when you get that second yellow, that is not reviewable. No yellow cards are reviewable. Like, if the ref gives a yellow card, that's what it is. And then they also are there if they need to tell the center ref that there was a mistaken identity. If they gave the card to the wrong person, they're going down, or they'll be in the ear and say, hey, you need to review this again. You gave it to the wrong person. It should be number 15, not number 10. So those are
always the fun calls, because you've got somebody who's losing their ever-loving mind. They're like Yosemite Sam from Looney Tunes, just like spitting, just like steam coming out of their head. And then they're like, correction, the foul's on so-and-so. And you see them like, oh my God, thank you. Like, how dare you? And then they're just mad the whole rest of the game.
So, I mean, those are the main ways that VAR, and those are the only ways that are reviewable. So there's times when things happen on the field, you'll hear a lot of people yelling for VAR. You'll see a lot of this symbol going on in the stands. And, it's on a whim, honestly. Who knows what really I gave you this list. I mean, am I 100% sure that list is really what they're using? I don't know. But let's go through real quick. How does it work? Really, the way it comes down is the ref makes a call on field that qualifies in one of those categories, or there was a goal. And if there was a goal, like I said, it's automatically being reviewed. VAR begins their video replay check. And the annoying part is that VAR can ask for more time while they're reviewing. Like I said, if it's not clear and obvious, you don't need more time. If the clear and obvious doesn't happen within the first 30 seconds, you don't need more time. Okay, so if there's no error, play on. But if there is an error, VAR will ask the center ref, who has the final word on all calls, to go review something at the monitor. And then they walk over to a little monitor and they
to the TV in a cooler.
Yeah, TV in a cooler, or like a little shroud. I think at one point they did have like a little shroud, like a little old-timey camera where they had like the blanket over their head. They go over, they take a look. They'll be talking to the video operators to slow it down. Again, if it's not clear and obvious, why do you need to watch something at a quarter speed? No.
That drives me insane.
Stupid.
It should be banned.
Stupid. Okay.
Yeah.
But they are there reviewing.
If you have a whole team of people reviewing it and then they're telling, hey, you messed up. Guess what? You messed up. That's it. You don't get to then say, no, you're wrong. But what do we know?
All right. So the center ref has the final decision. They're allowed to rescind the call that they made on the field, or they can stick with it. I'm going to say 80% of the time they just stick with it. And then the times that they don't, they get it wrong and everybody else gets mad. So, what the hell? And then you move on and you play on. Honestly, to me, VAR has caused the most chaos. And I think VAR was the reason that we started our Chaos Award in our podcast.
Yeah.
Was because that was...
Every week when we record, we give a Chaos Award. For 3 weeks in a row, it was VAR, because it was when, in that weird period of the season last year, where every game, a VAR review and an extra 15 minutes added to each half. And you're just everybody's playing 20 hours of soccer every day. Stop it. What is happening? We're all here for 6 hours. I'm hungry. I just want to go to bed. Is that part of the season? Yeah, it was rough.
it honestly just creates chaos. So, round table real quick. What do you think about VAR, and what rule would you implement that would improve VAR?
The thing I don't love about VAR is I feel like it sets the expectation that a match should be perfectly officiated.
Yeah.
And I think pre-VAR, every player had some story of, I would have won the World Cup if there wasn't a bad call there. There's a million of them. But then all of a sudden we have VAR and we're still having debates around this call was wrong, that call was wrong. I think you need to expect that referees are human. They will make mistakes. There's no perfect players. There's no perfect referees. It's just part of a game. And I just don't like setting that expectation of perfection. I think it's unrealistic. So my change would be take it away. I don't like it.
Just get rid of the whole thing.
Mine would be that it needs to be refined a little more before we really implement it, because I see the use for it, especially for penalties. if a ref blinks and they miss a penalty, it's not their fault because their eyes needed to lubricate. That's just being human. So that's why you have something like that. But I think there needs to be like a time limit on the reviews, something to speed up that process. Because when you're sitting there for 6 or 7 minutes as fans, as players, it's disrupting the players' momentum. It's disrupting the players' body recovery and like in-game. Like there's so much that gets disrupted by the game just stopping for 5 minutes. Like for injury or for VAR, doesn't matter. It's the same kind of thing. But we don't need more of that. I don't think the players like it as much. So you know what I mean? Where I get it. I understand it. But if it's not egregious or it's not so obvious, just keep it going.
Yeah.
You know, there's been penalties that, you know, you're watching the replay on the big screen. You're like, yes, that's a pen. And they VAR it for 10 minutes and then they don't call it. And you're like,
yeah,
what is happening? Like, just, yeah. I think there needs to be, in general, a time limit and also less vague regulations around it. Like they need to be like, is it this or this or this or this? And then maybe once we've behaved well and earned our privileges back, then we can broaden those restrictions.
yeah.
Like VAR is grounded. Like that's how I feel.
I agree that so as I've already stated, I think that it takes too long. So like honestly, the clear and obvious just needs to be defined a little bit more. Of like, what do you mean by clear and obvious? Because apparently nobody agrees on what that is. I kind of would like to go the baseball route of coaches having like one reviewable play, basically, like one challenge. Like there's times where coaches are just like, what the hell just went on? Like, was a foul? Like, and granted, positioning in the stadium is gonna skew everything, right? So if you throw up your like, hey, I want to challenge that should have been a penalty or whatever it may be, and have them force a review, and if you get your review, if you win it, then cool, you keep your challenge. But if you lose it, and you're like, well, you got to shut up for the rest of the game, right? And I think that might be one of the only ways that I see it really kind of working, in that like now you're not just kind of putting it through by chance. You're just saying like you got to pick and choose your battles, and really it's like up to the team to be like, hey, something went off. Of course, if there is something clear and obvious, again, define the stupid term. VAR can kick in whenever it needs to, but there's times where everybody in the stadium is like, yo, she just got punched in the face. Why isn't there a card there?
Like you see the bottom of somebody's boots, just cleats up everywhere. And they're like, I didn't see anything. What are you talking about? You know?
So
yeah, definitely.
It is what it is. You'll see that if you're going to a game. Apparently they're supposed to, which I didn't really see last year, but apparently they're supposed to be making announcements in the stadium whenever VAR is happening. It's supposed to go up on the screens that say VAR review for penalty check, VAR review for blah, blah, blah. And then they're supposed to make an announcement. I honestly don't remember any of that happening last year, but they did.
It just took a long time. Everything just took forever. It's like VAR is forever. Yes. Regardless, it doesn't matter. All right, so that was our 201 deep dive into positions and what the heck VAR is and whether or not we all believe it should exist. So thank you so much for listening this far. Bridie, where can folks find you? Like, what are your handles? Where are you on the internet? Give us all the details.
I am busy watching women's soccer on YouTube, Patreon, and TikTok.
Nice. So if you haven't already been Googling where to find Bridie's show, by all means do it as soon as this podcast ends, because it's worth it. It's so cool. You'll learn so much. You'll get to watch so much cool film. Like if you're like me and you want to just go back and watch film and like deep dive and nerd out over every game, this is the place. It's so much fun. You do such a great job, and I'm so excited we got to do this with you.
And so, if you're like me and you just want to be like, hey, something happened this weekend, and what the hell was that?
Yeah, what was
most
that?
likely it's going to get covered. So
Absolutely. Again, thank you so much for listening. If you like what you heard, make sure you hit the subscribe button wherever you're listening. If you're on YouTube or Spotify, I almost said Spectrum. Like, that's my internet provider. Wild. Who knows? Wherever you're listening, hit subscribe. Come hang out with us. Check out casualfc.com for all the podcast links. Like I said, we're on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky, all the places. You can find us at Casual FC Pod on all of them. And then on Blue Sky, because we're fancy, it's casualfc.com, because you can do that there. Also, the Discord is starting to pop off, getting closer to the season. All of the soccer news is there. We have a great community. Check out all the social bio links to get your way there. If you can't find it, DM us and we'll get you there. If you are looking to support the pod, make sure to shake or comment. The more engagement, the better. That's the free option. That's the easiest option. Do it because it's fun. If you want to grab merch, go to shop.casualfc.com. We're getting closer to the season, which means we're getting closer to new merch, which is my favorite part because I know what's coming and you don't. So I'm pumped for the stuff we've got coming up and the ideas that Mario and I have put together. So hopefully you will be too. We've got player merch, team merch, silly podcast inside joke merch. We've got good stuff. And then if you feel so inclined and you want to help us, you can go ahead and buy us a coffee. You can check out the link in all of our social bios or go to buymeacoffee.com/casualfcpod. And last but not least, tell a friend about the pod. We told you it brought the team good luck. So the more good luck we get, the more we send it to the team. So thanks everybody. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.